So today, let's talk about a blueprint for learning that actually lasts. It comes from a really brilliant psychologist named Jerome Bruner. And honestly, it might just change the way you think about everything from studying for a test to picking up a brand new skill. You've been there, right? We've all been there. You cram like crazy for a big exam. You absolutely nail it. And then, what happens? A few weeks go by and it's like all that information just evaporated from your brain. It is one of the most frustrating things about trying to learn. It really does feel like we're just pouring facts into our heads, like filling a bucket, only to watch it all leak out over time. And that's the classic problem with just memorizing things. The information has nothing to grab onto, no real foundation. But here's the good news. There is a much better way to do this. It's less about trying to fill that leaky bucket and way more about building a strong, interconnected structure of knowledge inside your mind. A structure that's actually designed to last.
And that brings us to Jerome Bruner. His main idea was actually pretty simple, but it is so powerful. He believed we learn best not when someone just tells us the facts, but when we discover them for ourselves. It's all about engineering that aha moment.
And he gave this a name, discovery learning. Think of it as being an active process. Instead of just passively receiving information, you become a detective. You're out there exploring, asking questions, and piecing together the clues to build your own understanding of how something works. And that flash of insight, the one, that feeling you get when you finally solve a tough problem on your own, that creates much, much stronger connections in your brain than if someone just gave you the answer. Knowledge you discover for yourself is knowledge you truly own. So this completely reframes the role of a teacher, right? Instead of the classic sage on the stage who just lectures and hands out facts, the teacher becomes a guide on the side. Their real job is to create interesting problems and then help the learner find their own way to the solution. Okay, so if discovery learning is the what, then how do we actually put it into practice? Well, this is where Bruner's most famous idea comes into play, the spiral curriculum. The core idea here is really simple. Instead of learning a topic once, checking it off the list, and moving on forever, the spiral curriculum has you revisit the same ideas multiple times over your learning journey. But wait, this isn't just boring repetition, not at all. Each time you spiral back to a topic, the goal is to add new layers, explore it with more complexity, and build towards real mastery. It's kind of like you're climbing a spiral staircase. You keep circling the same core, but are always moving upward.
This whole thing is built on 3 really simple but powerful rules. First, it's cyclical. You have to come back to the topics. Second, there's increasing depth. Each time you return, it gets a little more challenging. And third, it uses prior knowledge. Every new layer has to connect to what you've already learned.
So I know that's the theory, but what does this actually look like in practice? Let's check out a couple of real-world examples to make it super clear. Okay, think about learning how to write. Nobody starts by writing a complex essay, right? No way. You start with the alphabet, then you move on to words, then simple sentences. Each step builds on the last, spiraling up in complexity until you're finally putting together paragraphs and arguments. It's a perfect example of this in action. Or let's take a history curriculum. In 6th grade, maybe you learn the basic events of a revolution, just what happened, in what order. Then a couple years later, you spiral back to that same revolution, but this time you analyze its causes and effects. Then by 10th grade, you're ready to do a deep, critical analysis of its long-term impact on the world. See? Same topic, just with ever-increasing depth. All right, so after all of that, what's the one thing you really need to remember? Let's boil this whole thing down to one simple, powerful takeaway. So why does all of this matter so much? Well, because this whole approach puts you, the learner, right at the center of everything. It pushes you to be an active participant. It helps you build an understanding that genuinely lasts, and it brilliantly uses what you already know as the foundation for everything you're going to learn next. So if you're studying for an exam or you just want to lock this idea into your brain, here is the ultimate memory line. Bruner's philosophy is all about discovery learning, and the best way to put that into action is with a spiral curriculum. Simple, powerful, and it really, really works. And that kind of leaves us with a final question for you. Think about something you want to learn right now. Maybe it's a new language, a musical instrument, maybe you're trying to learn how to code. How could you apply this spiral idea to structure your own learning? How could you plan to revisit, deepen, and build on that knowledge over time?